Yeah, I had a face-to-face altercation with him at his front door, and him and another acquaintance of his were at the front door, and his acquaintance had pulled a revolver. And at that point, I kind of antagonized it a little bit, but then eventually the door got slammed in my face, and I had called the local detective of Madison County that was in charge at the time and told him what happened, and he told me that he was going to send somebody his way or my way, and nobody ever showed up.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to True Crime Unsolved. I'm Miles Reef. I'm here as always with my buddy Sean Cahill. This is the place where we tackle the stories that the TV networks won't touch. Unsolved homicides, missing persons cases, stories without an ending. Sean, what are we doing today?
Hey, Miles. So today we are continuing with another long form interview surrounding the Lacey Anderson unsolved death case. So far we have made a case breakdown. You might have seen our interview with Lacey's mom, Pam Johnson, and we are continuing that now with an interview with Lacey's sister, Felicia, and her husband, Nick, who has been around a long time, knew Lacey way back in the day, was very close with her. And so these two have an interesting angle on this story because, well, Pam is Lacey's mom. Felicia was more like a peer, right? A sibling. And then her husband would have been roughly the same age as Lacey. And so we're privy to sort of another angle of her life. I learned a lot from this interview, and I think you guys will too. There is some thing we wanted to flag, though, right, Miles? The slight inconsistency that we brought up on Pam's interview that maybe we should lay out here as well. You want to talk us through it?
Sure, it's just about the motivation behind the drive-by shooting that at this point, if you guys are familiar with the case, that Lacey was facing charges on and that she apparently was cooperating with the police about. So when we spoke to Lacey's mom, Pam, she had told us that the drive-by shooting was actually motivated by a love triangle kind of thing, and that Lacey had been hanging out with some other people, and that there was this other guy, and he had bought her a pair of sneakers. And then when the guy that Lacey was dating at the time found out about this, he insisted that she go with him and shoot up this guy's house as a sort of act of revenge, I guess, against him showing interest in Lacey by buying her those sneakers. Now, what you're going to hear in this interview and what we talked about in our case breakdown is that the drive-by shooting was actually connected to the drug trade that Lacey's boyfriend at the time of the shooting, that was also allegedly involved in the shooting, was allegedly involved in. Now, I want to just say right here, I think that both things might be true. I think that what Lacey told her mother may have had some truth to it, but I also would not be surprised if the person whose house was shot up was also involved in the drug trade as well as Lacey's boyfriend at the time, and that may have also had something to do with it. I don't think these two things necessarily have to exist separate from each other, but it's worth flagging, and we just want to always make sure that we're correcting ourselves with you guys. So, we said it one way in the case breakdown, the mom said it another way, and now you're going to hear Nick and Felicia say it more of the way that we portrayed it in the case breakdown.
Yeah, well, I think that is a common thing in some cases like this. I think everybody has a different relationship to the victim. Their, version of the story that they've been told by this person may be slightly different from, individual to individual. I mean, even in this interview, Felicia does say that Lacey kind of intimated that there might have been a romantic link or past between her and the other guy whose house was shot up during this drive-by shooting. So it probably is true that all of these stories do connect into one cohesive thing. It's just that everybody's kind of bringing a slightly different tidbit to the table here. Ultimately, it's not really important. I mean, this story is not about that shooting. It is about the murder of Lacey that took place sometime later. That is just background to this story that's important to understand. But we did feel like we wanted to kind of point that out. There's one more thing before we get into this that I wanted to point out. Early in this interview, Lacey's sister Felicia tells us that her death certificate said it was a 99% probability of a homicide. Since we filmed this interview, we've been talking to Felicia and we've actually obtained that death certificate, and it does not exactly say that. What it says is it ticks two boxes, one of them saying pending investigation, and one of them says undetermined. And this is just in relation to what caused Lacey's death. So Felicia says she probably misspoke, and what she's remembering is that early on in this whole thing, an investigator told her they were 99% sure that this was a homicide. They just did not have the medical evidence to put that on paper. So the sentiment is true. What she's saying is true. But I think the citation of the document was just a misremembering of things. It also possibly is in the medical examiner's report. We do not have that. That would be a more detailed document that would give more of an opinion on the condition of the body. The death certificate really is a one-page, pretty clean checklist of things, that would appear on a death certificate. So that being said, if you guys believe in this channel and the mission that we have here to platform cases like Lacey's and help families and investigators get attention for these stories, please consider subscribing to True Crime Unsolved. Every view, every subscription counts in boosting the visibility of these stories. Okay, that's enough channel business. Let's go meet Felicia and Nick.
Felicia, Nick, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate you guys making the time to talk to us, especially during the holidays. We know things are crazy for all of us right now. Why don't we sort of start with some background? Why don't you guys just tell us who you are and why we're here talking to you today?
Okay, I'm Felicia. My sister was Lacey Anderson, and in 2009 she was murdered. Her case has not been solved. Her body was found about 4 months after, and we're just waiting on some answers.
Now, just so everyone that's watching this understands, according to the authorities there, it's not a murder. It hasn't been classified as a murder, right? It's an unsolved.
According to authorities, they haven't labeled it, no, but her death certificate is 99.9% homicide.
It does say that on her death certificate.
Yep.
That's really interesting.
So can you explain to us?
Considering some of the, sorry, Sean, I was just going to say, especially considering some of the things that your mom told us, it's like things that cops have said to her, like, could she have been in this state of mind or whatever, but that the death certificate actually says that it was probably murder.
Yep.
Maybe we should get to know who she was a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how'd you guys grow up? Who was she as a person? Let's go there for a bit.
Okay.
If you're cool with that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so growing up, we were ornery. Our parents divorced when we were very young. Then we moved with my mom and my first stepdad. And she had a lot of rebellion because of divorce. But she loved our stepdad. And then my mom and my first stepdad split up, and we moved here to Battle Creek, and with my grandma. And found an apartment in Norfolk. And then my mom remarried again. And that was kind of rough. He had 3 kids that were all the same age as us. At first, it was like the fairy tale. We were all best friends. Everyone got along great. And then, time goes on and you got teenagers that all have hormones and they're just crazy and fights start and that happens. And then they ended up splitting up. And that's where Mom and Lacey is in an apartment in Norfolk when everything happened.
Talk to me a little bit about that part of her life, because we just heard about it talking to your mom on the phone, and it's really interesting. It seems like a pretty important time for Lacey. So what was that like?
The split up?
Yeah, when she lived with your mom, like
kind of after it, and them moving into that apartment and everything.
Okay. There was some troubles that were going on at home, and it was best for them to both just get an apartment on their own. It was not a very pretty time in life, but when they did move into their apartment, they seemed a lot happier. And then my mom ended up revisiting my ex-stepdad a few times and staying out there, and Lacey pretty much had the apartment to herself.
Wow. Was that a good thing for
her? Sometimes it was, and sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes she'd come home and do a 3-day crash and nobody could get a hold of her.
Wow.
And were you guys close through all of this?
Yeah.
As sisters? You stayed close.
Yeah.
Were you concerned for her?
Very much so. So there was a time that I had to pick her up from a parking lot in her car because she had overdosed, and take her back to my apartment and get her back to normal, basically. Get her back stable.
And Nick, you were around for this, right?
Yep. Yeah. We've been together. Felicia and I have been together since 2005.
Oh, wow.
Got married in 2006. So yeah, I was around for quite a bit of it. So
Wow. Well, what is your recollection of that time? Because I'm sure it's got to have been kind of tough. You know, your wife's sister's
yeah,
going through this.
it was rough. Like watching, she'd come to our place, and you could tell like when she was using, and
I'd always offer her a cookie. If she declined, then I knew she was using.
no.
If she wasn't hungry for
But she, at the same time, she's still like she had a pretty good bond with our oldest daughter when she was little.
And she was still herself. She was still
Yeah.
giggly. She was still fun. She was still like a little light, even when she was high.
Right.
how long would you say that this like troubled period of hers went on for?
She was 12 when she first told me she had meth in her room.
Wow. Okay.
Happened quick.
Just to give it some context, you like where you guys were living, was it a big, like, was it common? Like was there a problem in the community? Was it happening, to a lot of people, or
I'm really blind to that. I guess I don't know.
okay, that's fine. I'm just
It was,
curious like how
her
prevalent it was.
boyfriend at the time was using, and yeah,
Got it. So she fell in with somebody who she
Yeah.
started partying with, basically.
But then she got off of it
clean
in
for
like
a long
when she
time.
was 14,
Yeah.
and then or around that age, and then started back up close to when she went missing. So
Can I ask, what do you guys think pulled her back in? I mean, after being clean for so long.
I think boys are the problem.
yeah,
Honestly, it was
the
always a
crowd
boy.
she hung around with,
Yeah.
It's
she
kind of what your mom said too.
she ran around with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And that's in Norfolk. It's kind of, and we watched it with our oldest.
We did.
It's one way or the other. There's not really a happy medium. So like the kids either cling to the real bad kids in town, or they keep to themselves and they're a good student, and everything goes fine. But we watched our own daughter use. We don't know what all she used, but I mean, there was a point where I had to go get her from the school and wheel her out in a wheelchair.
Oh man.
And so that's why we moved to Battle Creek, was to get her away from that. So
Probably the right move. I mean, like sometimes you just need to physically like put distance,
Yeah.
once that stuff starts happening. So man, 12 years old. I can't believe that. That's so young for meth to enter the picture.
When you think about it, I mean, we've all done our stuff, but usually like 14, 15, I think I started drinking. I mean, that's, yeah, 12 years old doing something that hard.
I remember we were leaving for my stepdad's family reunion, and we were sitting in the back of the truck, and she must have had a guilty conscience, and she leaned over and told me, and I just started bawling, and Mom's like, "What is going on?"
Oh man.
What was the age difference between you guys?
3 years.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, Felicia, because obviously like that's a really dark part of her life, but what about the positive stuff? Like did she have goals, like especially maybe when she was younger before this stuff kind of started happening? Like do you know what she wanted to do with herself, where she could have gone, or like was there a positive path here that could have been chosen?
She didn't set many goals. Like if I
No.
think back when we would play Barbies, she wanted to work for Burger King.
Right.
Well,
She
you
started
mentioned
preschool, but she didn't love that. So
you mentioned that even when she was high, there was still like a light that
Yeah.
she brought. Like, so I'm assuming like she was like a pretty upbeat, like
she's a very positive, very happy person. She walks in a room and smiling and
hated pictures.
hated pictures. Absolutely hated pictures.
Yeah, getting her to take a family picture was like pulling teeth.
But Mom
Yeah.
always pulled it off somehow.
Yeah, there's always one of those in the family.
Mhm. Our oldest daughter, she's 19 and she was 3, her last memory of Lacey, and everything she remembers is like them singing together, her tickling her, like she was a fun person.
It's good that she has those memories.
yeah.
So let's let's focus in here, I guess, around the events that sort of led to her initial disappearance, right? So I know she got in some legal trouble. Obviously, we're talking about the substance abuse as well and the people that she's around. So I guess catch us up. Like at some point, it feels like her life really starts to spiral very quickly. So take us through it a little bit, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Oh, you want me to go for it?
Mhm.
Oh, well, so everything kind of with the where the spiral started, I guess, would have been with the with her boyfriend that she was with when the drive-by shooting occurred. Um, and then from there, it just kind of with the accusations and what they were being charged with, and then who she was seeing after the fact, who was a known meth dealer in Norfolk. Um,
That's
everything with that, it just kind of
sorry, Nick.
went
That's
downhill
that's
really, really fast.
that's Jamie that you're talking about.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, sorry, just so everyone's got context.
Yeah. So yeah, she was waiting to go to trial for the shooting, and everything kind of went really fast after that because the newspaper had put up, and which we looked for, we cannot find. I don't know if it got pulled from the archives or what, but the newspaper had published an article about how she was cooperating with local law enforcement, didn't say what case or what. And then from there, it went crazy. Like she went, I can't give you an exact time frame, but from when that happened to August 23rd, she went missing and everything went out that it was about her helping law enforcement.
She came over 3 days before she went missing, actually.
Oh yeah.
And we were sitting on the deck, and she was so paranoid that there was someone in the parking lot watching her. She swore it was an undercover and that they were there to take her.
What did you make of that at the time? Did you think she was just
I
paranoid?
thought she was crazy.
Yeah.
But that was after the article had been published, right?
Yep.
That she was feeling paranoid, because you guys told us that, I think, when we spoke on the phone, and I was blown away by that
Yeah.
they did that.
And I searched the
So
archives. I
responsible.
found a similar wording in an article in November that same year, but I could not find the article that got published prior to her disappearance.
That's interesting, because you can't help but think that they might have gone back and deleted
Well,
the
yeah,
post.
it's that it could have went back on whoever leaked the information, because it went from saying she's cooperating to boom, she went missing and now she's dead. And whose hands is that on?
Right. Whose fault is
Did
that?
that actually happen because of the article?
Well, it's like putting a target on someone's back. I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, I
Okay.
keep thinking about that in regards to the story. It's
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? So why don't we get some context too? Because she was cooperating. We mentioned the drive-by, but like, what was that all about? I mean, what actually happened, and what was her involvement, and who else was there? Just so our audience kind of like understands what the part of that story is.
So the involvement of the drive-by, it was her previous boyfriend before Jamie. And it was basically a drug competition. The house they were shooting was another dealer. He put a gun up to Lacey's head because Lacey had previously dated the other guy, and said if she didn't shoot, he was going to shoot her. So she vividly told me the story about how they had Ziploc bags around the gun to catch the casings, and that she was in the passenger seat.
I'm assuming she did. Was this when she came over and she was super paranoid and she like told you everything?
No, this was prior to. This was right after the drive-by. We were at my parents' house and it was just us there. We were supposed to meet there for something, but everyone runs late, so we just sat on their deck and talked about it.
Was anyone hurt or killed in that drive-by, or was it just like
No, but she was very, very upset because the roommate of the guy had a little baby, and she found out later on in an article that one of the bullet holes hit a foot above the baby's crib.
Oh man, yeah, that's pretty
Did she
upsetting.
tell you like who was in the car and
Oh yeah,
everything?
yep.
And so there was obviously, it sounds like, to catch it up to the newspaper article, an investigation about this, and she was kind of outed as cooperating with the police or had spoken to them or something like that. And so the implication was she was really scared that having that become public with these people who don't want to go to prison and are involved in drugs could put her life in danger, right?
Right. And it was weighing heavy on her conscience, so she felt the need to participate.
Right. That's really interesting. I mean, it's amazing that you guys had this relationship where she was able to tell you all of this, you know, and trust that you weren't going to betray her, which is, I mean, how lucky that you guys had that relationship. So basically what you're saying is that the more that she found out about what had happened and who was in the house and everything, she kind of felt like I have to do something about this. And that's when she went on her own. Like the cops didn't find her and put pressure on her. So she was trying to do the right thing.
So, and then I guess to keep the timeline for us kind of understandable, she was no longer with the guy that was part of that drive-by shooting when she actually went missing. She was with somebody else by that point. So like how long was the difference between her going missing and when that drive-by actually took place?
Matter of months.
Drive-by was towards the beginning of the year, I believe, in 2009.
Yeah.
Got it. So it was months.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, what was her life like after, after that, where this article has appeared in the paper? She's scared. She stops dating that guy, it sounds like. What was going on there?
That's actually when that spiral hit that you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and she was just paranoid and scared all the time.
Where was she staying at that point?
At her and mom's apartment.
Okay.
Got it.
Did you guys ever meet Jamie?
Yeah.
Nick, I'd love to know what what seems like a pretty normal dude and a father, what your feeling was about the guy.
So we never formally met.
Yes.
But I did have a face-to-face altercation with him at his residence when I kind of went on my own thing to try and figure out where she was. She was missing. And I had a face-to-face altercation with him at his front door, and him and another acquaintance of his were at the front door, and his acquaintance had pulled a revolver. And at that point, I kind of antagonized it a little bit, but then eventually the door got slammed in my face, and I had called the local detective of Madison County that was in charge at the time and told him what happened. And he told me that he was going to send somebody his way or my way. And I sat on a side street about a half a block down probably from there, and nobody ever showed up.
Wow. That must have been really
that's the only altercation I have with him. I know people that know him, and I know his reputation. So, I mean, my opinion of him is not good at all.
So that took place when she was missing, right? This is before
Correct.
she was found. Got it.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about then when that happened, because that obviously is a huge moment in everybody's lives here. So where were you guys, and how did you find out that she had gone missing to begin with?
So we were supposed to meet up at my mom and stepdad's house for a barbecue. My stepsister was coming back from Germany, and it was kind of a huge deal. Like everyone was planning it all week, and I told Lacey I would pick her up, and I called and called and called, and she never answered. And he was going to come out later, so I just said, "Hey, keep trying to get a hold of her. I'm going to go out and see my sisters." And me and my two stepsisters spent the afternoon laying on the deck, because that's where teenagers love to lay. And grandma showed up, mom showed up, everyone showed up, and we still hadn't gotten a hold of her. And we all knew, like, there's something going on. So
you knew she wouldn't have missed that.
Yeah. So we called the police department, and they told us, because I had seen her in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, they said since it hadn't been 24 hours of nobody being able to talk to her, that they couldn't consider a missing person yet.
And that she probably just ran away. And so we waited, and the next day we all called and called and called, and mom went home to the apartment and her car was there, but she wasn't there. There was no sign of forced entry. The vacuum was still in the middle of the living room, like she had been cleaning.
Interesting. So what did you
I've
get?
got a question.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Sean. When the police, when you called them about her being missing, and they said, well, it's been 24 hours, and she probably just, took off, which they say often about young people, right? That's like,
Mhm.
we've heard that so many people. Give it a chance, and maybe she met a guy or whatever. Did you give them context? Like, were they aware of who she was?
Oh, they
And
all knew who she was. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. They thought maybe because she had an upcoming court date for the drive-by that she took off.
Right. So do you think this would have been they would have reacted differently to it if she did not have the troubles in her life?
Oh
Like the
yeah,
law,
for
like
sure.
yeah,
For sure. Yeah. And the people she was involved with.
Yep.
right. So they're like, oh, okay, her, yeah, well, maybe just give it a couple days, guys. Like these people are all living pretty wild. Right. Well, what was that like for you guys to hear though? Because you knew something was wrong.
Yeah, we all knew different.
Yeah, we were mad. Actually, I think it was a 3-day matter of time, and my mom had set up a search warrant with a bunch of family members, and we were out putting posters up and just looking.
and within that time, when the 24 hours had passed, did you go back to the police and try to get them to
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get phone records and get everything we could.
right? How were they then? Like, when did they actually show an interest in trying to help? And I'm not anti-cop. I have
No.
really good friends
No.
who are
No.
cops. I'm just sometimes when in
They
cases
never
like this,
showed an interest.
if they don't, there's a reason why it's the first 48, right?
Yeah.
If they don't make a move right away,
They never showed an interest.
No, they're the entire time it never seemed like any of them actually truly cared. Like it just kept being she's probably on the run, she has court next month. And they just kept playing it off as she's probably on the run. She's probably on the run. She took off. It just they never really pushed. They weren't on us to try and find information. We were on them trying to get like, hey, where are you guys at with this? Have you tried pinging your cell phone? Like, questions you're gonna ask. And never seemed like there was a true level of care from any of the local law enforcement that handled her case at all.
right?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you,
because
do you,
go ahead, Miles.
sorry, well, I was just going to ask. I mean, because of the world that she was in, and because of her, she had been in trouble with the law. Do you feel like that was like sort of prejudicing the cops from looking at it a different way?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I guarantee that was a big factor in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think like you said, I mean, they probably do see a lot of people who have court dates coming up and decide to split, or they're in a rehab situation and they take off. And so for them, they're just trying to look at the pattern and they're like, oh, it's another one of these, right? But
The
it's
hard part for me is like our family had communicated trying to get her into like a rehab. And they told us no. And she stayed around after that. So
Yeah, the judge denied her going to rehab because of her being a potential run risk.
But she was on the street anyway.
Yep.
yeah.
At least then they would have known where she was.
Yep.
Was the rehab like out of state or something?
It was in Minnesota.
It was in
Okay,
Minnesota.
okay. So they didn't want her leaving the
Yep.
general area. But it's still bizarre because at least you would have known where she was and she would have been under control.
And my stepmom at the time would have been the supervisor of it. So I mean, she would have kept ball and chain on her.
Mm.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
actually feels like that would have been the right place for her to be. And
I agree.
maybe not going there is a fatal error here in this whole story.
Well, she also would have been safe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
Right.
it sounds like she needed
From
to
herself
be.
and from other people.
Right.
Yeah, it
right.
sounds like she actually needed to be away from that whole area. Like I understand the court's view of they want her to make her court dates and everything, but that was probably the worst place in the world for her to have to be stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty much like a slap in the face, like, no, you're not going anywhere. You can stay here, and pretty much write it out. And yeah, if she would have been able to go, she still would be here with us today for sure.
Oh man, that's
I
gotta hurt.
mean, whether she would have been sober or not, or in jail or whatever it may be, she would have still been alive and here.
Right. So just as far as the legal stuff that she was facing, so she was involved in this incident that happened, right? But then she went and she was cooperating with the authorities and providing information, obviously. But she was still facing a court date for the incident.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's interesting.
So from my understanding, is the cooperation she was giving them, one was
To help.
for her remorse from what had happened, but also at the same time they were promising her to lessen her charges. Obviously, when you cooperate with law enforcement, that's one of the outcomes. But
Got it. But so yeah, that's why I was curious, because like sometimes they'll make a deal there where
yep.
and it won't even go to court because it won't go to trial because it's like, well, we worked this out and she's going to take this, and
Yeah. No, she was still facing charges, just not what she would have been if she wouldn't have cooperated.
got it. So they
You know what
lessened the charges. But were the other people who were involved were also going to, was it all together or was everyone getting a separate
Yeah,
trial?
they served time for it.
So John, the boyfriend at the time of the shooting, he was already in jail for it. And his brother, oddly enough, I was working in juvenile corrections at the time, and I actually had his brother in juvenile corrections facility for those charges.
Wow.
For the same incident. He was there
Yeah,
as
for
well.
the shooting.
Oh wow. Oh man.
What were Lacey's charges? What did they like hit her with for that?
Oh
I
man,
can't even remember.
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
it was. I think I know one of them was unlawful discharge of a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to say there was like 4 or 5 charges. I'm not 100%. It's been so long.
Mhm.
Right.
Nick, you were you a corrections officer? Like you were in the facility?
Yep. Yeah, I worked juvenile corrections for about 5 years.
Dude, what I mean,
It's a different ball game.
well, forget about that. I know I that's a whole other interview that we could do with you about your job. But
Yeah.
but to have this kid there and you're watching over him, and then your sister-in-law goes missing. Oh man, you must have had to show incredibly restraint.
Oh yeah, that was a very trying time in my life in a lot of different ways. So
Yeah, I can only imagine.
it's probably a good thing I went the route I would, or I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys today about it.
Right. You think you
Right.
made the right choice. I'm not saying
Well,
it
I
was
had a
easy.
feeling, just your vibe and stuff, that you probably tried to do something at some point. And like when the story you told us about going to the house doesn't surprise me, because I figured you seem like the type of guy that would step in and try to protect.
Yeah.
Well, about that, I mean, so she goes missing, right? You guys find out, and Felicia, she's already told you all of this stuff. I mean, like, it not only is there the public court parts of these stories, but she's told you basically everything, like sister to sister. So did you guys instantly think, oh my God, like these dudes have to be the dudes involved? Where's my sister? I'm going straight to their house, or like, I guess, how did that all play out for you two?
Yeah. Honestly, it was an instant thing. We were just like, he was the last one that saw her. I knew that she was at his house the night before because she told me. And where else do you go? To the last person that saw her.
So
there was a lot of mixed emotions. Like there was so much questionable stuff that happened with it. We bounced back and forth.
Mhm.
We went from, well, was it Jamie? Or was it John? Did John hire somebody, or did from prison? Did he ask somebody to take care of her? So
And then there was a minute where Josh
Keatle,
he killed the girl from Peru. He had lived in town during that time frame too. So the police officers started investigating him. So then your mind whirls and you're like, well, maybe he was here. Maybe he did do it.
no.
So I think in the back of our head, we always felt that it was Jamie, but then as things start to pop up, you're like, well, maybe it was this person.
Right.
His family, Jamie's family has claimed his innocence. Clearly, that's going to be the first thing that happens with family. But he passed the lie detector test, so he's not guilty. He didn't do anything. The cops already talked to him, and they know it wasn't him. But if you have any kind of common sense and you know how that stuff works, like the last person to see somebody alive has got to be like your top priority suspect.
Yep.
Well, and there's
Yeah.
just so much smoke around this whole situation, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, to not, dive deep on it would
Like,
would be a miscarriage of justice, in my opinion. Just
And
just seems so obvious. Like it's like if there's financial problems in a marriage, and then one of them ends up dead, you have to look at the spouse, right? I mean,
right.
it's
You
it's
don't
just
just
it's
give them one lie
simplistic,
detector test either,
and
right?
then
Where you're
walk
like,
away, right?
oh, okay, well, sure, this lady was found, at the bottom of a staircase in her house dead, and the husband just inherited $1 million. But we asked him 20 questions and the needle didn't move. So we're
Right.
we're confident that this is over and shut. You would never do that, right? But it does sound like that's kind of what happened here in regards to this guy.
well, there's a reason lie detector tests are inadmissible in court.
Yeah.
They can be passed easy.
So that night, it's supposed to be this happy reunion.
Mhm.
Turns into you guys all sitting around, figuring out that something horrible might have happened to your sister, right?
Right.
So what happens after that? Like you said you started putting up missing posters and everything, and like kind of walking around. You start calling friends.
Yep. So that was August 23rd. August 24th was finally 24 hours so we could declare her missing. Um, and the minute after that, then we all started doing posters and we went to every small town around. We went to every gas station. We went looking everywhere. And then that following weekend, my mom and my aunt had arranged basically a search for the tree lines between here and so my family is originally from Battle Creek. We lived in Norfolk, so all the tree lines from there. We searched. Jamie had made a comment that we would find her at home, and she was found 2 miles from home.
When did he make that comment?
Multiple times
To you guys or to the police?
to people around town.
Yeah, just the word around
Yep.
town from him.
Yep, you'll find the snitch out by your house.
Really. And the word snitch was used.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
There's actually a bridge kind of south of his place, of Jamie's place, that somebody had spray painted Lacey's a snitch on the bottom of the bridge.
Yep.
That was found. I think it was found after
That was
her.
found after her.
I need a little bit more understanding of this guy Jamie and the situation. So this is like this isn't like gang stuff, right? This is like
Yes,
like
yes.
it is.
There's
Okay.
there's been, we don't know for a fact, but there's speculation that he is involved with cartel, and that's where he gets his drugs from.
Okay.
There was a guy
It's just-
that's a known criminal that is supposedly part of the cartel and was actually up here, had a couple drug houses, and I did follow that guy around from house to house a couple days while she was missing, just to see if I could come across something or catch something odd, or but it was normal, just drug dealer stuff in and out of houses.
Mhm.
The last thing that we heard on our very first investigator is that Rodrigo Ortega had followed him out to his house and threatened him,
Yeah.
and that's why he quit.
And that's why he did this.
He's
to
no
Lacey.
longer state patrol.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Jamie is like running a couple of trap houses basically. Like he's
Yeah.
got these places that are distributing drugs. And
Yeah.
he's a pretty high level dude in this area. I'm
I
assuming.
I watched multiple drug deals in and out of his house specifically, because I'd do a normal cop thing. I'd stake out a block and a half down the road or whatever and just sit there and watch. And I'm a hunter, so I got binos and all that. And
Yeah.
I was doing criminal justice at the time and working in corrections, so I thought I was being, Johnny Law, I guess, trying to figure it out myself, because I didn't feel like anything was getting done with our local law enforcement that had the case. So
Well, I mean, it seems like you definitely cracked open a very obvious like trafficking network there that she was connected to. So right there, it just seems like there's a bunch of people that if you were actually law enforcement, you could have taken and talked to, like with the authority of the law behind you, and at least for a couple hours. And it feels like that didn't happen to the level that it should have, right? Because like
Yeah.
I guess if there's different kinds of cases where people go missing or wind up murdered, and some of them are really truly like we have no idea who did this. And that's where you see the cops talking to the media, like, somebody please come forward with a tip. Like, we are at our wits' end with this. This feels very different. This feels like the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. And then when she's ultimately found, there's names, right? There's guys in town that everybody knows, like, this guy might have had something to do with it, or at least they know who might have. So for this to go on for 16 years is like beyond insane to me, because everybody we talk to, it's not that much of a mystery, right? Or at least,
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously some unanswered questions, right? Like who exactly and when and how. Like we might not know that, but I don't think it seems like it's that big of a mystery how we could get those answers. So that's why I'm sitting here scratching my head, and I'm sure you guys kind of feel the same way. I could
Oh,
tell.
yeah.
Definitely.
All the people that were also prosecuted for the drive-by, they all got locked up, right? What
Yep.
was the
Yeah.
what was the timeline like, when she went missing to when they went on trial and got convicted for those charges?
So the brothers were actually locked up immediately.
Mhm.
Oh, so they put them before trial.
Yeah.
They were holding them until trial.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
John was already locked up, and his brother Brandon was actually locked up in JDC and then aged out to adult, I think.
So there's the informing on the drive-by, right? That is reported on, but she's no longer with that guy. That's John. So John's
Yep.
in jail, but then it's Jamie is the one that we are suspecting possibly could be involved or knows something. So then what would the connection of the informing be? Because it seems like that was for a crime that Jamie wasn't
So the
involved in,
connection of
right?
the informing would be that they didn't say what she was informing for. So she's running with all these lowlifes
Thank you. Got it.
So
and
the article you're
informing.
talking about that kind of outed her.
Yeah.
So then it's like everyone in her life suddenly who's doing something illegal is worried because they
Yeah,
don't know
oh, yeah,
what she
yeah.
who she's saying what
Yep.
about too. Okay, I got it.
Absolutely.
And that's where the whole snitch thing came from. That came from the Jamie
From
side
that.
of thing, because a lot of the people he was involved with were claiming that she was snitching on him.
Yeah.
But really, she was feeling
Helping
guilt
with
about
her
the
own
drive-by
case.
because of the kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it might have been over something that she wasn't even talking to anybody about.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
Oh man.
She was just trying to work her own conscience and also maybe get a better deal for herself in the justice system on a
Mhm.
completely unrelated thing. But then Jamie finds out, oh, she's talking to the police about something. I'm selling like hard drugs. Could it be me?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Right.
Man.
So you guys are looking for her. Give us the timeline. Like, how long is it until you get information or until she's found?
Well, she went.
Almost exact would be so August to September, September to October, October to November. So almost exactly 3 months and just shy of like a week, 10 days.
Wow.
It was the opening weekend of Nebraska rifle season, because it was father and two sons that had found her.
We're out checking their fence line and found her.
Wow.
And how did you guys? Do you remember getting the news? Like, do you remember?
Yep. My mom had called me and said they found a body out by Hayter, close to home, and that it was in the tree lines, and that they requested Lacey's toothbrush, and that we would know more after they get the DNA.
Oh man.
Well, we were getting ready to go to
Yeah.
my dad's 50th birthday party at the time.
Oh, man. Well, and so this brings us to the other part of the story, which is actually you brought it up in the very beginning when we first started talking, which is that the way that she was found also kind of leads to even more mystery here, right? Because they weren't really able to say exactly what happened to her. I mean, tell us about that a little bit, because that's really difficult in a lot of ways.
So the officer that we had then had told me he identified her by her hair. And so at that point I was like, that's gotta be her. And then the funeral home, I had requested to see her, and they said that she was just a bag of bones. There was nothing to see. And then I was supposed to do her hair 2 days before she went missing, so I was having a really hard time with it. I was like, can I at least just touch her hair? Like, sounds weird, but can I touch her hair? And they said there was no hair.
Interesting. So the police are saying they identified her by the hair. The funeral home is saying what hair?
Yeah. They're
That's
saying,
odd.
we've got a bag of bones in there, but the casket
And-
was locked.
And
you know,
that could have been just the funeral home saying,
or protecting me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope that's what it is. I mean,
yeah, there's just a lot. There's a lot of open questions as far as we would ask Jason Sears, the state patrol investigator, how did she die? Did she die from a gunshot? Did she die from stab wounds or whatever? And he couldn't tell us that. He wasn't able to give us any of that information because they didn't want it to ruin the case supposedly. And yeah, so I believe it was 4. Again, it's been 16 years, but her body was supposedly sent to like 4 different autopsy labs. One of them being UNL's autopsy lab at the college there, the university, and there was no determination of whether she had drugs in her system, whether she had alcohol in her system, whether she was pregnant. Everything was undetermined on her death certificate.
And later on, after they found her, they said they did find male DNA at the site. They wouldn't tell us what it was on, and
Or what it was.
yeah, or what it was. But then we never got results on that.
I mean, that's even crazier because once again, knowing that there's people here that are like obvious persons of interest, people who sound like they've been through the system and had their DNA collected, you'd think we might have some information there, but nothing, huh?
Nope.
Who told you that there was male DNA at the scene?
Sears did.
The state
The lead investigator at the time for state patrol.
Right.
Interesting. How long did he stay on the case? Because your mom was telling us that there's been like multiple people that have
Yeah,
taken this over the years.
It wasn't very long after the threat from the supposed cartel guy. It wasn't very long. It seemed like after that all of a sudden, and I don't think we found out right away that he was no longer on the case, but he was no longer with state patrol, was what we got told, and that a new investigator would be assigned to the case.
Wow.
And it seems like since then we've always had to, if we want to know who's handling the case, we have to call state patrol, and they haven't been very cooperative as far as I've been in to talk to them, early in the time frame, and got just terrible answers and results from them. And Felicia's he's to this day has been trying to get to sit down with somebody, and it just seems like, well, they don't have. I think the last time he was here, they didn't have time. That the investigator that was in charge of the case was out serving warrants, or it was some stupid excuse. But they made excuses not to see him while he was here in town.
What's the status right now? Because I'm pretty sure you guys have been keeping track of everything, of John and Jamie and the brother.
John and his brother, I believe, are both out of prison now. Jamie just got released on parole on the 22nd of December.
For the same charges, or was he in and
Yeah,
out?
so Jamie's
been in and out.
If I remember right, he's done 3 sits in the state penitentiary for meth-related charges and intent to deliver, and that's just in the time frame that since Lacey's been gone to now.
So he's continued in his chosen profession.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys get the sense? I'm going to ask you a question I feel like I already know the answer to here, but do you guys get the sense that this case is very much alive and that people are still working on it and it's a priority?
No, not at all.
Why? Why do you guys think that is?
Because if the case was still alive, we would hear more.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I understand why you don't think it is, and I totally agree with you. I guess what I'm asking is, do you have any thoughts of why they're not?
I honestly think it's because the people she was involved with are tied to local corrupt county officials. And it's in the law enforcement agencies. It's in the courthouse in Madison County. I honestly think that the mix between that involvement in the case, and I honestly believe that there was probably something maybe mishandled or messed up in the investigation after a body was found, which I think we told you guys when we were on the phone with you, that they obviously didn't do a thorough search of the property she was found on, because that farmer had found her tennis shoe in the field that following spring during planting season.
Right. Which shouldn't have been possible if they'd really done like a extensive search and cleanup
just,
there.
Yeah, just
Yep.
a grid, like just, really cover the grounds with enough people. They would have found a shoe.
That ground was opened up to the farmer having full capabilities within weeks of her body being found.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nick, how comfortable are you breaking down the larger thing that you mentioned, and how much detail could you give us on that, as far as the corruption and all of that?
I don't have, so I know all this stuff off of hearsay. I'll just say that. But I'm completely comfortable because I think everybody that's involved is snakes. But our county attorney is our biggest problem in Madison County, and everybody knows it, including the lady that wrote the article that I sent you guys. What was Madness in Madison County or whatever.
Yeah, we can link that in the description too when we post this up.
So he's our biggest problem, I think, and in my opinion, looking in from the outside, I feel like he's the ringleader of everything, and that clearly he has control over the end result of anybody's criminal charges. Along with, he's also the county coroner. And so I think it just trickles down from there as to, and I don't know who all in the law enforcement agencies was corrupt or involved in any of this. I know the investigator in Madison County that I called the night that I was at Jamie's house and that had a revolver pulled on me, I know for a fact clearly that he was involved in some way, because he had told me he was going to send law enforcement there, and no law enforcement ever showed up to the house. I know there has been, and I think they're working on a cleanup, but I know Norfolk PD has had some not so favorable officers in their agency over the years and during that time. And as far as the state patrol, I honestly don't know on that end of things who is, or if there is any corruption there. I'm sure there is. There's always one or two guys. You think you see it in the movies and you think it's not real, but it is. And I have firsthand experience of somebody that came here out of state to work for Norfolk PD and had been prior on a drug task force in the state that he came from, and he wasn't with Norfolk PD very long. And I had talked to him about it, because this had been after Lacey, and I had told him how I felt about Madison County and what I felt was going on. And he told me that I think it was a year and a half that he was at Norfolk PD, that he'd never seen so much corruption in one county. And he told me, he goes, I did 8 years in the drug task force in the state that he was in, that he was originally from. He goes, he never saw that kind of corruption.
Wow.
And he got out of law enforcement there. He went back to, I think he's doing some kind of aircraft maintenance or repair. So.
And you stopped your pursuit of the criminal justice degree, right? Weren't you
Correct.
going for that? And this whole
Yeah.
thing just totally poisoned your view on it, right?
Yeah. So I had 3 generals left in my criminal justice degree. And when all this happened, I was still planning on going forward with it, and got elected as the president for the criminal justice club at the college. Everything was looking good. And then it just started the way everything got handled, it just got worse and worse and worse. and Felicia and I have never had plans to move out of Nebraska or out of this area. And my mind thought was, I can never work for these agencies, seeing them handle her case the way they handled it. And so I just quit and I went back to the car business.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got completely out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that DA that you're talking about, I mean, we're going to link to that article, but this isn't just like pure conjecture from your part. Like you said, it's been reported on. This guy's been in trouble to some drug related stuff before, right?
Yep. There's and again, like I said, this is all hearsay because I don't have proof, but he was supposedly involved in a drug bust in Norfolk that him and a local attorney or lawyer were involved in this I think it was meth. But anyways, this bust happened and he was there at the time. Well, all of a sudden he was undercover. And when it came time for trial, the lawyer went to prison, but he never got any charges. And supposedly the evidence disappeared from the case.
It's just interesting to picture an elected official going undercover. Like that's not usually how this.
Exactly.
Exactly. Look, I know you didn't finish your criminal justice degree, but I'm pretty sure if you had, you'd be able to tell us definitively that doesn't happen. That's a weird thing to say. But I guess what else are you going to say in his position?
Yep.
Oh, I'm undercover. Don't look
Yep.
here. Well,
but yeah, it's well known across the entire county that, I mean, if you walked up to say 10 random people in the county and you asked them what they thought about Joe Smith or what they've heard about Joe Smith, I guarantee you 9 out of the 10 is going to be negative. And they're going to tell you the same thing I told you guys, or they might tell you their own stories. So
these corrupt folks may have been in cahoots with the people who were responsible for Lacey's death.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that's why Jamie, nothing ever happened. For him to be the last person to see her alive, him to change his story as to what happened the night that he saw her twice in the time that she was missing, in my opinion, and again, I never got all the way into law enforcement, but that should have been plenty of ammo for the law enforcement agencies to pull him in and hold him for questioning to make him sweat at least. Yeah. And all they did was ask him to come in for a lie detector test in that time.
Yeah. And look, Sean and I are not cops, but we spend a lot of time with cops and we, do this for a living. And, there's so many things in this case that seem like they were just left hanging. I mean, even the grid search on the property, the fact that the farmer found her shoe 4 months later, it's just ridiculous. The weird things that have been said to your mom, was she suicidal? It's just, the lack of information. I mean, I'm not one to like immediately go towards believing in a conspiracy, but there's a lot of very strange stuff around this. And it's not to say that like you guys aren't saying that she had info on these elected officials and she was going to blow up some big thing, but it was just like the people that they're working with
in the chain of events.
Yeah. Like why even go after it, because we're making money with these guys.
No.
And her testimony could potentially hurt them long term.
Well, it just seems like this should be so solvable if everything was on the up and up. I guess that's where my head is going right now. It seems like we understand the people who might be behind it, and they weren't looked into even close to nearly enough. We find her remains, but everything is inconclusive. We're getting like, different accounts of what the remains even were and what they saw there. And it just feels like, okay, well, a real investigation into this would answer all of these questions, right? Every single one of those people would be dragged in and questioned to hell and back.
Yep.
One of them would be in and out of prison with a different charge and do some version of what she was doing, right? Like, okay, I have information about a murder. Help me out here. I don't want to do 20 years. Can you make it 12 if I tell you something? Yep. That happens all the time, right? So why hasn't it happened? I think you have to start looking at what you're talking about, Nick. Is there a reason that someone's not letting that happen? Because normally it does,
Well, it's like you said, Sean, it's so obvious.
And maybe it is happening, but they're ignoring it.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Oh,
think,
like you're saying, maybe someone's talking, but
Yeah.
they're just like,
yeah,
whatever.
Because of the situation and because of the corruptness, maybe someone is saying stuff and they're like, ooh, we need to keep
Right.
her quiet. Let's keep it under the rug.
Right. Well,
Right.
these guys, they're not the world that they're in. People talk. I mean, Nick, you were in the system working. I mean, these guys all talk. Like they all talk to each other, and you know, so someone out there knows something. I'm sure of that. It's not. I'm sure there's more than one person that knows what happened to her.
yeah, I know for a fact in my heart that there's multiple people involved and multiple people that know, and they're just not. I think they're all part of the same ring, and nobody's wanted to give up and do the right thing. I think if she would have got treated as a murder victim instead of a runaway in the beginning, I think the case would have been solved. On
Right.
top of obvious other outside influence with the officials and stuff, but I honestly think if it would have got treated as a murder victim and not a runaway, that we would have a lot more answers than we do today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of time and a lot of opportunities were wasted early on in this whole thing
Yeah.
that they'll never get back.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, it's been handed down through all these different people over the years. And so whoever is working on it right now, like how the distance between them and you guys emotionally and them and the crime scene itself and Lacey is like years and multiple people apart. It's
And the
just
fact that they don't even know us, like we've never even been called in to talk to them or tell them anything.
the fact that your mom, Lacey's mom, doesn't even know who it is, right? When she calls,
Right.
she's like, who do I need to talk to today? Like, that's insane.
Right.
This is the person responsible for solving your child's murder. And it switches so often that you don't even know who they are day to day. Like that to me is just
How do you
unconscionable.
gain trust in that?
Yeah, you would. I mean, who would? I mean,
Well, realistically, if you look at it, like every time that case changes hands in a real situation, that investigator pretty much has to start back at zero. And how much information and evidence has been lost or tainted in 16 years?
Right.
right. Well, even think about like how many, small interactions one investigator would have had talking to a person of interest that don't get translated, right? Because it's not something that goes in a report. It's a feeling they had or something they noticed that they
Yep.
kept to themselves, but then they're transferred out and someone else comes in. It's like all these little micro things that matter are just gone and wiped every time this happens. So,
Yep.
well, I feel like you guys are doing the only thing you can at this point, which is talking about it. I mean, this is just like such an openly corrupt situation and a miscarriage of justice in a lot of ways that I don't know what else to do
Yeah.
except for just call it out, right? I mean,
Well, it's interesting because Sean and I covered a case recently where it was a young woman and she she went missing and she's never been found, but the family's pretty sure they know what happened to her. And she also had like a troubled life. She was using and she was with the wrong guy. And it's the belief is that he was probably involved. But it seems in that instance that it was more just the cops hadn't made a real effort because of her lifestyle, which happens. You know what I mean? They were just kind of like, well, she's messed up and she's using drugs and whatever, and who knows what happened to her, right? But with this, there's so many people who care about her, and you guys have made such an effort, and there's so much weird stuff around it, and the fact that she was cooperating with the police, she was willing to go to rehab. There were all these other things that were happening. It
Yeah, she
doesn't
wanted
just
to get
feel like inept, we've got bigger fish to fry. She's a drug addict. It does feel like there's something else going on here to me.
I agree.
Well,
Do you guys think that this was silencing the snitch and a punishment? I mean, I hate to say that because you mentioned the DNA, and I'm thinking really really horrible stuff that I'm sure you guys have probably thought about, but it seems like a really potentially brutal thing that was done to this woman.
Yeah.
It's really, really awful. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that no one gives a damn out there. It's really bad.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm frustrated on your
It's the bad the really hurtful thing is, like I told you guys on the phone, we're in a town of 24,000 people.
Mm,
It's not big. Like you hear of that stuff in the big cities where drug addicts are dying on the street every hour or whatever, and they're chalking it up to, oh no, it's just an overdose. That's
Yep.
kind of how it feels like this is. Like, oh, she was just a drug user going to jail for a drive-by, and it wasn't that kid. This is more of a small town thing than a big city thing.
right.
It's a really good point. Yeah.
Well,
It's
and there's different types of corruption, and there's small town corruption and there's big city corruption, and small town corruption can be worse sometimes. I've
Yeah.
found. It's
I think
easier to
part-
cover things up.
Part
Yeah.
of that for me is that she was really close with our family. Like she was really close with my mom and my grandma and me. We talked all the time. So to know, like, after 3 days when none of us have gotten a phone call, and they're still telling us that she ran away. No, she didn't.
Right.
She would have called us.
And
That's
the
really
fact that
that other story that I was talking about. Sorry, Nick, but
Oh, you're fine.
that reminded me. They were so used to her disappearing that, Sean, it was like a month, right? Before
it was a couple months. Yeah.
it was
I
a
think
kid, because that's what she would do. She would just go off on like drug missions and disappear, and they were just used to it, and then
The
she'd show up
family,
with
yeah.
her laundry.
Yeah, see, and
So-
that's totally opposite of
Yeah.
Lacey.
Right.
Even when she was high, she was staying in contact.
Yeah.
right.
Maybe
Right.
maybe not like 3 times a day, but she was still staying in contact, and she would still show up for things.
Yeah. Well, it's
Right.
interesting because you said there's 24,000 people, and it sounds like you guys have a fairly large extended family with the blended family. Like there's a large percentage of people that like give a damn
Yep.
out of this population. They should be doing something about it.
The other thing that kind of throws up a red flag for me is, our is the family request of having the FBI involved and being told they don't need to be involved.
Mm.
Did the FBI tell you that, or the local law enforcement?
Local law
Yeah.
enforcement, the state patrol did. I called the FBI personally myself and asked, and they said they could, since it's not a federal matter, they couldn't come in without being invited.
Unless they're invited by.
Yep,
Vampire.
and state patrol. The one time I spoke to the state patrol in person about it, it got a little heated, and I told them, I said, "Why don't you guys get the FBI involved? They have far more resources and manpower than you guys do." And he said, "No, they don't. We don't need the FBI. The FBI doesn't. The FBI can't help us." I think was his exact words. So
I mean,
to have that opportunity as an agency to bring somebody else in and help. If they truly were trying to help and trying to solve this case, I think they would have said, "Hell yeah, let's call the FBI and have them come help." But
Yeah,
instead, it was we don't need their help, almost like they're trying to cover something up, or there was a mistake that they don't want found by the FBI.
Well, yeah, there's the we screwed up and we don't want to look stupid, or there's the we're protecting somebody, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
because there's no other reason for them to say no.
For sure, other than like interagency pride and that
Well,
kind of
yeah.
bullshit. But
when it comes down to a murdered girl,
right. Well, look, let's just throw
shouldn't be a part of it.
let's just put it on the
100%.
table. If it was going so well, they would have solved it 16 years ago or 15 years
Correct.
ago,
Right.
14
Yeah.
years ago, but here we are. I think you guys might need a little help, frankly.
Yeah,
Maybe you should call the FBI. And yes, they do have more resources than the state of Nebraska. As great of a state as it is, the federal government has more money. Sorry.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
true. So
Well, and on top of it, like, I don't know.
We had another girl go missing from Norfolk in 1987,
Yeah.
and they just found her killer 2 years ago.
no way.
No.
Wow.
Is he still alive?
Barely.
Wow.
Why do you think they would protect someone who's going in and out of the system? Like, if these guys, it sounds like they've been in and out and in and out, and they just keep doing it. Is it just about the business? It's just about protecting the money.
I don't know. I think so. I think maybe protecting an asset to them that might know more information than they should, but at the same time or same token, he's valuable enough not to get rid of him.
Right. And as long as
Hey,
he's just
you,
getting these drug charges and he's dealing with that and he's keeping his mouth shut,
yeah.
as
And the thing
opposed
is,
to,
like, you look at this guy, it's not like some big Miami drug lord. Like, he doesn't look like he's a valuable person as a drug dealer. But for some reason, I feel he's protected, and I don't know why, and I couldn't tell you why.
yeah, that's what I was kind of trying to understand earlier when I was asking you to like describe Jamie to me, because I was trying to get a picture in my head. Like, are we talking like, is he like, is it Suge Knight? Like what? Who is
Yeah.
this dude? Like what does he look like? Like what kind of persona does he have? Um, but yeah, I guess as long as if that's the case, and he's not copping to the murder, and he's not going to like point fingers at anybody, let him keep doing his thing.
Well, and the other thing I had asked one time too, and I asked him why couldn't they turn this into a cold case
Mm,
and let it go cold, because then other people can touch it, right?
Right.
right.
Other people can have access to the information from the case, but they refuse to do that. And it's not a cold case; it's still an active investigation. That's the answer I get.
16 years. Did
Yeah.
they give any explanation of why they want to
Nope.
keep it active?
Nope, just flat out told me that there's it's not a cold case and that it's still an active investigation. But again, then why haven't we been kept informed of who the new investigator is, where they're at with the case, if they have any new leads? Like 16 years, you shouldn't be worried about tainting. There should be more information like, hey, we found her. This is how she was found. Like, you're at this point, you just need to find the person that did it. You don't need to sugarcoat it and try and hide everything from the public. We're to the point where they need to just start putting out raw information. Because I think the from my understanding and what I know or have been told, the way she was found wasn't good. And I think if they start putting that kind of information out, it's going to make people uncomfortable or make them have some kind of remorse to where somebody's going to talk. If they just keep it under the rug and, oh, it's an active investigation, but they don't have any new information, no new leads, nobody's going to feel pressured to say anything.
Well, and what is it, Sean? The old saying, it's there's once more than one person knows about something, it's not a secret anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
there's multiple people out there who know what happened to her. I have no doubt about that.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and it does feel like from the outside, from everything you're telling us, it's being treated like something that they want people to forget about. Because there is plenty they could share, like you said, Nick, that would bring this straight back to the front page, right?
Yeah.
I could see the headline, right? It's like investigators release new details on old unsolved murder case, blah blah
Yep.
blah.
Yeah.
Like that stuff happens all the time. So why not now? I mean, 16
Yeah.
years. What are you guys waiting for? It's clearly not moving.
Yep.
So, well, let's do this if you're comfortable. I mean, I know you guys told us on the phone that you have done some stuff in the past for her in her name. You may not be doing it anymore. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Poker run.
Poker run. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're loud pipes for Lacey. And
Cool.
we were averaging it was a good turnout. I mean, we were averaging probably anywhere from 35 to 50 bikes a year. And we would make our route to where it went through, I would say, the middle-ish of town. And, revving bikes up, everybody's wearing loud pipes for Lacey's, somebody knows something shirts. And, I mean, we were trying, and it just so much effort we put
After
into
15
it.
years and still no
No
answers.
movement.
And
Yeah.
it was really hard on my parents. It was hard on them up until it. And then during the event, it was like all these overwhelming, exciting emotions happened. And then afterwards, it's like the end of a funeral again. You're
Right.
alone by yourself and everyone's gone.
Right.
So you guys stopped doing it just out of respect for your
Yeah.
folks.
Yep.
Yeah, well, this year was the first year we didn't do it.
Well, guys, is there anything else that you think we haven't touched on that we should talk about, or do you think we more or less covered the important stuff here?
I think we covered a lot of the
Yeah.
important stuff.
Well, thank you both so much for taking time at night during the holiday season to talk to us. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you
Yeah, we
guys.
do.
It was a pleasure to talk to both of you guys. And I do hope that eventually there is some closure for you.
Us too.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
All right. Well, let's stay in touch then. And we'll obviously, we'll talk a couple more times before this goes up, exchange information and photos and all that stuff. But otherwise, thank you guys and have a good rest of your night.
Yep.
Thank
Have a
you.
happy new year.
You guys too. Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.
So I didn't expect to feel the way that I feel right now, or not emotionally. Obviously, these interviews are always emotional, but just like intellectually, like what I'm thinking and what I think of the case, I should say. I'm a little surprised by where my head's at right now. I don't know. How are you feeling about it?
Pretty similar, I think. Let's talk about it. I think that this case presents itself as a classic murdered person found in the woods, but then when you look harder and deeper at it, there's so much more going on here, and the possibilities are really dark when you really start to peel back why this might have happened, I guess.
It just seems, as we said, when we were speaking to Nick and Felicia, it seems so fucking obvious. And so, look, nothing simple. The law is complex, and law enforcement's job is very, very difficult and very important. But having said that, it just seems so fucking simple. I mean,
She was outed as a cooperator in the newspaper,
there's
and then
graffiti in town that's calling her a rat. The
the
guy was
DA has methamphetamine, incidents
on
like
record,
on
apparently. I mean,
record. Yeah.
we gotta look that up, but I mean, he was undercover. That's like
Oh,
something out of fucking Breaking Bad, or it's like, Saul Goodman shit. Like,
right.
sorry
I,
for I'm cursing a lot, but I'm just
one of the bigger tragedies here too is I think she wasn't informing on anybody that didn't need to be informed on, right? Like someone shot a gun that almost killed a baby. She was in the car. She felt bad. And she was also facing charges for being involved in that. And so she did what pretty much everybody in the system does, which is try to work a deal for themselves. I mean, that's
yeah.
very, very common, and it seems like if these allegations or this theory or however you want to qualify this are correct, then the people who may have hurt her, she wasn't even doing anything to them, that we know of. It sounds like maybe just a fear thing,
Right,
you know?
right, exactly. Depending on where it came from,
Right,
because there's two guys, right?
right.
Um,
Yes, that's true. I mean, there's also the theory that it was the guy involved in the shooting and he got someone, contracted someone while he was doing time to go do it in the real world. And
right, right.
I
But
don't
then
know.
there's the other side where it's like, well, she's talking to the cops about the shooting. Maybe they don't even, it's just she's talking to the cops. I mean, we both, you've seen it a million times with criminal element, you know, it turns into a telephone game.
Yeah.
I've worked with guys who have worked mob cases, and I mean, it's things get so paranoid and blown out of proportion where that's how people get killed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it sounds like Lacey, even if we don't know exactly who did this, she found herself involved in a nexus of people who all had the motivation to do it and who are
Yeah,
really dangerous, dangerous people.
well, that's
And
what I keep saying. It's just so damn obvious.
yeah,
Like, this girl, she didn't get trafficked by mysterious forces, or
no,
she just got hit by a car and they moved her body. Like,
It's one of a handful of guys, right, that
Come
everyone's
on.
aware of.
She was literally talking to the cops, and the night before she's with this dude, and then she doesn't show up for the family event, and then
the
the next
guy's
time they
story
see her, she's
changes.
dead in a field.
Yeah.
You know, and there's graffiti that, and the guy apparently is going around town saying, "Oh, you'll find her near home," right? And there's graffiti around, and look, maybe that's just like it took on a life of its own, and it's like the street world there, and people are like, yeah, she was the snitch. Maybe they weren't even associated with it, but maybe not.
Right.
Maybe whoever did it was talking, and other people put that graffiti up to impress him. I mean, who knows?
I'm so curious to see what you guys think. We always read our comments, as you know. We make videos reading our comments, so sound off. I hope Miles and I aren't the only ones that are feeling like there's something going on here. But if we are, let us know. Maybe we missed something. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you like what we're doing, please go ahead and do that. And the final thing I want to remind you of is we are also a podcast. So if you like what you're hearing, but said, I don't want to see it so much, go find us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you get them. True Crime Unsolved is there.
Thanks, everybody.